Hello, today we're going to be doing how to cut a facing. I'm Villa Walker from Ville's Sewing Studio. These are samples that I've drawn. Remember, you have to put in your basic neckline and shoulder before you can cut or change the neckline. I'm going to be doing the boat neck. I had marked it out already. These are samples. Okay. So here we have, that's what the boat neck looks like. Now I'm going to be cutting the facing for the boat neck. The rule for facing is that the facing must always be cut to the exact shape of what you're cutting. Okay, so listen. So you're going to place your blouse on top. And the facing, we normally take the facing to halfway the shoulder slope. So there I pin, and I will cut to the shape. So I cut across, and I cross across the shoulder. This point is very important, that you cut across the shoulder or else it will not fit. Alright, you take the blouse off, and then you're going to measure around and make sure it's the same size all the way around. You don't want any part of your facing to be wider. So you measure around like this. So it's the same size. Your facing tend to be seen on the right side of the garment when you are wearing it. So that's why it's important that you cut your facing accurately. Remember, when you are adjusting your neckline, if you widen the front, you have to widen the back as well. Alright, so I'm going to put the facing onto the blouse so you can see it. When I'm sewing facing on, I sew the neckline just 1 centimeter, so you're not sewing too deep at all. Remember, all curved edges are supposed to be clipped when you are sewing. So this is your facing pinned onto the neckline. Notice it is lying very flat onto the neckline. And this neckline is your boat neck. Now, because it's on a curve, remember you clip before you turn over onto the wrong side. So the facing goes onto the right side and then it's turned over onto the wrong side. Like that. Alright, so that's for your boat neck. Now we're going to do the round neck, and again I marked one out. So we cut basic neckline first, cut across your shoulder slope, and cut your armhole. That's the side. Okay. After that is done, we're going to cut out the round neck. Remember, you measure on your body to make sure you get the shape you need. Alright, we clip the center, so we mark the center. Okay, so that is your round neck. Okay, now I'm going to cut the facing for the round neck. Do you remember what is the rule for the facing? The facing should be cut to the same shape of what you're facing. Exact same shape. So I get my fabric again for the facing. I'm working on the fold. So I match my fold to the fold. And I'm going to cut around the neckline and then across the shoulder. Now remember, it's best to pin when you're cutting, especially the main points like here at the shoulder neckline and the center. You don't want any movements at all. And then you're going to cut to the same shape. Alright, so you can cut there, and you can cut here to make sure the shape comes out good. Okay, then we go across the shoulder to half of the shoulder slope. Okay, so you fold and you get your half, and that's where the facing will stop. We do not like the facing too wide on the neckline. It spoils the softness of your garment. Okay, so I cut that out, take off the blouse. Notice I took off the blouse, and I'm going to do the same thing again and measure my facing. What I like, I do not like the facing to be too wide. Right? So we come right around. Notice I'm measuring from this neckline out, so I can get the same rounded shape. Okay. So I have my round shape there. And then I'm going to cut it off. Okay. So this is for your round neck. And I'll put it on again. See, that's your facing. Same shape as the neckline. Put it on. And remember, you would have cut your back facing as well. I'm just dealing with the front today, but you would cut your back facing to match the back. When we lower the front, we lower the back, but not as deep. Right? And you stitch your back facing to your front facing. Stitch your shoulder, of the back of the blouse to the shoulder of the front of the blouse, before you put the facing on. Okay, so see, the facing now is the exact shape of the size of the shape of the neckline. So that's the round. So we go from there. Remember, you are to clip out. When you stitch your neckline, always clip it. If the material is very thick, you do it more, so you have to use up relax it. Okay. We have snip and we have clip. Alright. So one is done like this with that. You see that little V cut, and the other one is just a clip like that. Alright. Now the next one I'm going to be doing is your V-neck. So we do the same thing again. You cut out your basic neckline. Cut your shoulder. Your armhole, and cut the side. Then remember, you measure for the V you want on your body to make sure V is not too deep. Okay, so we take a little part of the shoulder slope. That's your V-neck. All right. Now I'm going to cut the facing for the V. What do you think the face would look like? Let me see if you're following me. Oh yes, it would have the shape of the V. It's a V neckline, so it's a V facing, okay? So again, I fold. I place my blouse on top. Okay. And pin to make sure there's no movement at the center. Very important. The facing can spoil the garment. Another thing I should point out with your facing is that you should cut it on the same grain that the garment is cut on. If it's on the straight grain you cut your blouse, then make sure your facing is done on the straight grain. Remember, I told you earlier in the course that the cross grain stretches more than the straight grain. Making sure that my V is right at the V here, see? So if you cut your garment on the straight grain and cut the facing on the cross grain, then you're going to find that when you put it on the facing is going to stretch away. And you're going to have a problem with your fit of the garment, all right? So you take half of your shoulder slope there again. Just fold it so you get it. And then we take the pins out, take off the blouse, and we're going to cut the facing. Same thing applies. You measure from your center to make sure that your facing is the same size all the way. So I take it from the center and I'm coming down with it like that. All the way down. And I'll catch it down the fold here, because that's the V. Okay, so I'm going to cut it out now. So here we have the V, the facing in the V, all right? So we're going to put it onto the blouse. There we have the blouse. You put it on top. Okay. Now notice I'm setting the V. Make sure the V is lined up properly. It's important that it be relaxed before you sew it. Okay. So when I'm sewing the V, I start from the V up to the shoulder. I find that I get a better fit like that. So I'll stitch this side up and go around to the back. And then I will come back and stitch this side next. Okay. Now I'm pinning, so it's difficult to turn over. All right, so there you have it. That's the V-neck. And notice the facing is exactly lined down, exactly nice, flat onto the blouse. So you've stitched on the right side of the blouse and turn it on the wrong side. Now whenever you do these peak like this, you have to cut in the center and cut at the side and take out the center. I'm going to do that for you. Notice my marking there. So you cut in the center, look at it right there. And you cut here on both sides. Now what that does, it relaxes the material. And you take out this piece, cut that piece out. Okay, so the center is cut like that. When you cut that out and you turn over, it will lie flat on the other side. You must remember to snip in the corner like that. Okay, so that one now is your V facing, V neckline and facing for the V neckline. Okay, now we go to the square neck. This one is the square neck. And remember, I told you that most of the necklines that you will see is basically these. What happened to them is that they're wider, deeper, narrower, or they put a collar on, or they okay, so we cut out the basic neckline and then we do the square neck. Mark your center as usual. So that's the square neck. Okay, so whenever you're cutting the neckline, you have to make sure you keep your garment on the fold, the center, just like how we cut. So when you cut, the two sides will be the same. All Alright, so I fold for my facing, and again I place the garment on top of the facing, the material for the facing. I pin the main points like here, and over here, okay, and then we're going to cut. You're cutting it to the same shape as the neckline. So this is a square neckline, so it's a square facing. You still do half of your shoulder slope, so it's not too wide. You don't want it too wide. So you mark it before you take off the blouse. Take off the blouse, and then you're going to use that measurement all the way. Alright, so we go now. You measure like that. You're going to do that all the way around. So the facing is coming out to look just like the blouse itself. And so we cut. Notice to take the corner, I cut and pass where I need, so I can get a straight edge there. Okay, so that's your square neck. That's the square neckline. And we are now going to put the facing on to the square. I normally suggest that you do a similar thing at home, where you practice all the necklines and cut the facings to match before you work on the garment. So you get familiar with how to cut the facings. So we'll stitch this again 1 centimeter onto the right side stitching, then you turn it over onto the wrong side. Okay, so if you look at your facing now, it's on the garment, it's the exact shape of the front, and it's lying real flat on the fabric, on the garment. Now we're going to clip the corners just like I did on the V-neck a while ago. Alright, so look at your chalk line again, the corners must be clipped. That's the only way you can turn over and get your square. So we clip the corners. So when you stitch now, see, you clip your corners like that. When you turn over, then it should lie flat. So this now is your, yes, square neck. And the last one we have here is the sweetheart neckline. And this one is used a lot in wedding garments, wedding dresses. Quite a pretty neckline. So that's the basic neckline I just cut a while ago. Okay, remember these blouses fit at the waist, that's why they're so short. Alright, so I've drawn in the curve. There's 2 curved lines, as I mentioned on the board, for the sweetheart neckline. And remember, before you do your neckline, measure it on your body, the width and the depth. How deep you want it, how wide you want it. Okay. So here we have the sweetheart neckline, nice and pretty, 2 nice curved lines. All right, so we're going to cut the facing for this, and as you know already, the facing must look just like the sweetheart neckline, okay? Save this one, we'll be able to do it, yes. So I line it up on this. Okay, remember, make sure the fold is to the fold. If it's a button front, then your edge will be open, but this is not a button front. This is a closed front. Alright, so I pin, and I need one extra pin here because I'm going to have that curve and I don't want to spoil my curve. So I'm going to cut. So there we cut to the shape, and I'm going to take the blouse off, and again I find half of my shoulder slope by folding and marking. And you measure from the neckline. You're going to follow your curve that is there. When you get to the peak, you make sure to the peak as well. So you're going to get the same effect here. Round to the curve again. Follow the curve. Keep your measuring stick straight, or your tape measure straight, and the center front will come straight down. Okay. So we're going to have a curve here. It curves to here, just like that. And then you curve it up to here. Okay, so that's how it looks when you mark it. It has to be the same shape and you have to have a curved line. Okay, so there you have your facing for the sweetheart neckline, and I'll now pin it onto the blouse. Right side is touching, and again you start at the peaks. Make sure you set your points accurately. Just like in a V, I start at the center front and stitch up to the side. So I will stitch from here and come up like that, taking my curves, all my curves, making sure all the curves are done. And it has to be the same distance from the edge into the corners, or else you will not get back the same neckline. So you have to use the same seam allowance all the way. Okay, so now the facing is on the blouse. Okay, and remember now that you will clip all the peaks. So this one you have 3 peaks in there, so you have to clip all 3 of them. Make sure when you clip it almost to the stitch line. Right, and you will take out the extra in the middle. Okay, so this is the sweetheart neckline, and it's very, very pretty. Okay, now we have done facings, we have done the necklines, and we have done the facings. I trust that this information will help you to give a good finish to your garments when you sew. Remember, the facing must be cut the shape of the neckline. Thanks for watching. I'm Villia Walker from Ville Sewing Studio. Thank you.